Good afternoon to you and welcome to K24 NewsCut. My name is Shiksha Arora and the sign language interpreter this afternoon is Walter. So thank you for joining us as we bring you up to speed with the top stories of the day. And making it to the top is the effects of the ongoing countrywide crackdown on unsafe schools, and it has begun to bite with parents and with children at St. Catherine's Education Centre in Kibera, which was closed by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, refusing to transfer them to the nearby Ayani Primary School as directed by the government. Magoha, who closed 4 schools in Kibera following Monday's tragedy at Precious Talents Academy in Dagoretti, directed all quality assurance officers to close down schools with questionable infrastructure and transfer the pupils to nearby public schools. So far, only 17 pupils have transferred to Ayani Primary School, with the St. Catherine's Centre remaining deserted. We are now joined live by our reporter Dennis Matara, who is in Kibera and is going to be giving us the latest with regards to what's happening with Ayani Primary School. Good afternoon to you, Dennis Matara. What is the latest from your end?
Good afternoon to you, Shiksha. Yes, we are at Ayani Primary School, the school that the Ministry of Education ordered that the students who came from St. Catherine in Kibera be brought here. Now, we came here to confirm that the students have actually come to this school. And what we've learned is that only 17 of them that have already come. And out of those, remember that from that school, St. Catherine Primary School, which was closed yesterday, it had 207 students. But now they confirmed that at this particular school is only 8 out of that, and then there is another school that was also closed, which also includes there's other students who've also come from that particular school. Now, we spoke to the deputy head teacher at this particular school, Madam Elizabeth, who said that they have not received as much of the students as they expected at this particular time, because the parents were actually adamant to to come to this particular place. Now, the argument there was earlier was that they said the school was overloaded. That is according to the parents. But according to the deputy head teacher is that the school actually has all the space that they need. The only thing that they want is that the Ministry of Education to make sure that they add more classes, they bring on more books, and of course add some more teachers who will be able to be accommodated with the extra number that will be coming from that particular school. Now, something else that they found surprising is that they are receiving students from 4 different schools instead of one particular school which was closed yesterday. Because according to the Ministry of Education, they said that it is 207 students who were supposed to come to this school from one school, that was St. Catherine, which was in Bombolulu in Kibera. But now they said that they are still seeing inquiries from parents from other schools also in Kibera, which were also closed. Now, of course, why you're finding it a little bit chaotic right now is because it is over lunchtime and all these pupils are actually out for lunch. And that is why they are surrounding us just to know what exactly is happening. But the population in this particular school, it is at 1,500. And according to the deputy head teacher, he said that as much as they have space, there are more facilities that are needed because their numbers are also big. But because that was a directive, of course, they have no choice. At this particular point, they have to receive the new students. The only thing that they will need is more space, more teachers and facilities to accommodate them. We are expecting to get a report from the Ministry of Education, that is from the CS, Professor George Magoha, who is going to give a report about the incident that happened on Monday. That was in the Precious Talent Top School that collapsed, where 8 students died out of that. There is a report that is supposed to be released on the same, and of course the measures that are going to put up just to make sure that at least they clear up on issues with the unsafe schools. So from Ayani Primary School, of course, I'll take you back to studio as I try to have fun with the children around here. Shiksha.
Thank you very much, Dennis Matara, for that update. Of course, all smiles there as the students are very curious as to know what Dennis is doing. But yes, he has been updating us on the situation with regards to the schools in Kibera and their infrastructure as the Unsafe Schools Crackdown continues. Well, for now, we're going to be taking you to the corridors of justice, where this morning Sarah Wairimu appeared in court, and this is with regard to the murder of Dutch tycoon Tob Cohen. And of course, Lennox Sengre, our reporter, has been covering that particular story. He's been following up the details, and right now he'll be telling us what exactly the judge ruled in court today, and he will be giving us a more detailed report right now.
Cohen's murder case has taken a new twist today after the prosecution raised weighty concerns that transpired in the burial of Tob Cohen's this week Tuesday in the Jewish cemetery. That was on Tuesday, where Sarah was seen on camera quoting that she knows those who murdered Cohens are put on notice. This raised an issue of contempt of the court, where the prosecution was saying that is this a contempt of court that was raised by Justice Jessile Seat early when this case was starting. She gave a directive, that is Justice Jessile Seat, that no one should be seen really commenting on this issue, touching on the evidence. But today, Justice, that is Stella Mutuku, has given a directive that this case be adjourned until Tuesday next week, that is 1st October, when they will be coming back for plea taking. Remember, this Catherine Mwaniki, who is the prosecution, was really checking on Sarah Wairimu, who is a prime suspect in this murder case, where a Dutchman, Tob Cohen, was murdered and his body then later found decaying in a septic tank in his home in Kitisuri, that is next to Kabete. Also, the family lawyer, that is Cliff Ombeta, has also raised another weightier issue in this case, saying that the lawyer, the counsel really representing Sarah Cohen in this case, that is Philip Murgo, is still a state counsel. Remember, Philip Murgo did serve as a state prosecutor some time back, and he said on camera that he had since resigned. But for today, Cliff Ombeta has raised this issue again before the court, saying that Philip Murgo is still a state counsel and should really serve the court with papers, detailed papers, saying that he really did indeed resign from his position. This is a matter that is coming up next week for another ruling in this judgment. Also, prosecution Cliff Ombeta saying that this the Philip Murgo, who has been vocal in media, is still serving as a state counsel. Also, from his side now, the defense lawyer Philip Murgo is saying his client has been in police custody for long now, culminating to 30 days in police custody. Remember, Sarah Cohen is being detained at the Langata Women's Prison since she was arrested, and for today comes to 30 days when she is still at the police in police custody. It's a matter that is coming up next week, when we will know her fate, whether she will be released on bail or not. Remember, since then, Sarah Cohen has not been charged with murder. There's a story that we are really following up, Shiksha, to know the in-depth of this story by next week. Shiksha.
Thank you very much, Lennox Sengre from Milimani Law Courts. Of course, in a nutshell, what exactly Lennox has been following up is the story with regards to Sarah Wairimu, and of course she's going to be remanded up to 1st of October when she will take plea. Now, moving on, stakeholders in the education sector have been asked to prioritize the safety of learners, and speaking during an open day in Chuka, Teachers Service Commission Chairperson Lydia Nzomo asked teachers and and school administrators to ensure all facilities are in good condition to guarantee the safety of children. Nzomo said though the protection of children was enshrined in the Constitution, everyone has a responsibility to ensure children are protected against any harm while in school and other places. Take a look.
Stakeholders in the education sector to play our part in protecting our learners and ensuring that the school continues to be a safe learning environment, including the physical facilities of the school, so that the buildings are safe, so that the school compound is safe. When the children are playing, they don't fall into some pits that are already done in the school. We make sure that they are protected. It's our responsibility. At the school level, we have this as the priority, protecting the learners, and we are also saying out there at home, and all of us, we have it. We must be able.
All right, now moving on to other live events. Right now, as we speak, Professor George Magoha, that's CS of Education, is currently being grilled with regards, was being grilled with regards to the collapse of a school in Dagoretti that killed 8 pupils. And of course, we're going to be talking to our reporter, Rose Gakur, with regards to what was said in this particular grilling session by Professor George Magoha in front of the Education Committee. So let's patch up with our reporter, Rose. Good afternoon to you, Rose, and maybe you can get us up to speed with what was said in this particular session.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Shiksha Arora. Rightly put, today Professor George Magoha as well as other officials from the Ministry of Education did appear before National Assembly Education Committee chaired by Julius Melian. Of course, key was the question on the collapse of the precious Talent Academy in Dagoretti, among other areas. But of course, the statement from the Minister or the Cabinet Secretary was that there is a syndicate of non-governmental organizations that has now been luring the pupils and parents into getting into the informal academic centers or education centers. And now this has actually gotten the numbers to these kind of structures away from the government structures. And according to the Cabinet Secretary, who said the ministry continues to crack the whip on such centers. He says it's actually saddening that this has not happened because there are no government institutions, citing an example in Kibera, where he said just close to the school that was closed down yesterday or shut down yesterday, and students asked to move to a neighboring school not so far from that school. There is a government institution, but has a very little number of students attending the school. And of course, this is some of the issues the ministry says is trying to streamline, even as it continues to crack the whip on such settlements. But of course, remember, it's the Education Committee, and of course, members present will be joined by one of them, Runyenje's Member of Parliament, to tell us the actual state of the education right now, because some of the questions posed earlier today were from various members of Parliament from across the country. Karibu Sana, if you can tell us, what is the bottom line, and especially on the current issue of the state of schools?
Thank you very much. My name is Mushangi. I'm the MP for Runyenjes and a member of the Parliamentary Committee on Education. And it is a fact that there are some schools sponsored by NGOs, and particularly one of them which is called the Bridge Schools. It comes and lures our parents and pupils and students to join the school, and they charge very cheaply for school fees, and so they end up getting a number of students, and you find that they are very congested. And going by what happened in Dagoretti South just the day before yesterday, we have today been with the CS and put him to task to ensure that the Ministry of Education takes charge of the affairs in the ministry and ensures that students are decongested, ensures that the government ensures that there are schools in places where we don't have schools, like in that case of Dagoretti South. Also in Embakasi West, we have places where we don't have schools, And it is now the duty of the CS and the Ministry of Education to ensure that rules have been followed so that we don't have institutions that are being brought in by people who do not meet the requirements for establishing schools, or schools that are not properly registered. Because in the case of bridge schools, we have those schools offering, employing teachers who are not properly trained to teach the curriculum, the approved curriculum by the Ministry of Education. So we want the CS to look into those issues so that we do not have a replica of what happened in Dagoretti South.
All right, and of course you have mentioned about the bridge schools, and maybe seeing the ministry appeared before the committee today. What do we expect? Do you have timelines of similar schools around the country? What timelines, what expectations does the committee have on this matter? We
put to task the CS to come back to us with full information regarding the state of many schools in the country, and we believe that in a few months' time he will be able to come back with a good report. And us as a Committee of Education, we shall ensure that we visit and get to the bottom of this matter. We visit the schools in question so that at least we can do a good report that we shall be able to table in the House. Recently, just this year, I was among the members of Parliament who went to the UK. And we went to the UK to tell organizations in the UK to stop funding institutions that do not want to follow the regulations that have been put by the Ministry of Education, including the bridge schools.
All right. Very well, thank you so much. That's Mheshimiwa Mushangi Pat, and a member of the National Assembly Education Committee. And of course, remember, the Kenya Private Schools Association had made a petition to the committee to have secondary students placed in private schools, but of course, with the funding of the government. But of course, that is a matter the ministry has said is not possible unless the schools will help in a 100% transition from primary schools to secondary educations on 100% fully paid scholarships for the needy students to the private schools. We'll update you more from Parliament. I am Rose Gakuo.
Thank you very much, Rose, for that comprehensive update from Parliament. Of course, we're definitely going to be giving you more details in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, moving on, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Somalia counterpart, Mohamed Farmajo, on Wednesday met in New York and agreed to normalize relations between the two countries, but fell short of reaching a deal on the maritime dispute in the Indian Ocean. Now, according to a dispatch from State House, the meeting, which was held on the sidelines of the ongoing UN General Assembly, was convened by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who is the current chairman of the African Union. President Kenyatta called for an out-of-court negotiations on this particular dispute. K24's Apollo Kamau now reports.
This was the first meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Somalia counterpart Mohamed Farmajo since March this year, when Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed mediation efforts on the Kenya-Somalia maritime dispute in the Indian Ocean failed to yield fruits. Wednesday's meeting on the sidelines of the ongoing United Nations General Assembly and brokered by African Union Chairman and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is said to have normalized relations between the two sides, with Somalia government spokesman Abdinur Mohamed Ahmed saying on Twitter, Somalia and Kenya have agreed to work towards normalizing relations without any implications for the maritime case at the International Court of Justice, which will take its full course after Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi convened a tripartite meeting on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly. President Kenyatta had called for an out-of-court negotiations on the dispute, which the African Union Peace and Security Council meeting last month urged the two sides to engage.
That Kenya calls for the resolution of this dispute through negotiation. And we remain hopeful that the federal government of Somalia will be amenable and committed to the search for a mutually acceptable and sustainable solution to this dispute.
Kenya is skeptical on the maritime dispute hearing scheduled for November this year in The Hague, Netherlands, which Kenya says offers little chance for a win-win situation compared to an out-of-court settlement. Before Wednesday's meeting, relations between Nairobi and Mogadishu have gone cold, with direct flights to Mogadishu and issuance of visas affected. Further worsening of ties could affect the war on terror on both sides.
As we all know, the UN Charter privileges the use of negotiation as the most preferred mechanism for settlement of disputes. Similarly, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea provides for the delimitation of maritime boundaries between states amicably.
State House is yet to issue a full statement on the talks between Kenyatta and Famajo. President Kenyatta, in his address before the Assembly, urged his fellow heads of state to support Kenya's bid for a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council during the elections to be held in June next year. Apul Kamau, K24 NewsCut.
Now, Jubilee candidate in the upcoming Kibera by-election, MacDonald Mariga, has promised to transform the constituency if elected during the November 7th mini-poll. Mariga, who addressed the delegation of Kibera residents during a meeting held at Deputy President William Ruto's official residence in Karen on Wednesday, promised to keep in constant touch with the constituents even as ODM candidate Imran Okoth hosted a section of the infamous Nairobi business community who vowed to support his candidature. Daniel Karyuki reports.
MacDonald Mariga, the Jubilee candidate for the Kibera by-election, on Wednesday led a delegation of residents for a meeting with Deputy President William Ruto at his current residence as campaigns for the November 7th election intensified.
Kwa hivyo mambo ya ball, sports in general tutaitengeza, sio? Simona sasa hivi karibu na nchi tunaweza kufikia saa yote. Tunataka shida zote zikikam na address hapa, tunaitoa hivi tunaongea pamoja, sio? Na tulisema taki ofisi yangu itakuwa wapi? Kuongea na kila mtu, sio? Hiyo ndio ofisi, sio? Hataki ofisi ya huko, watu wanaingia na waepana nyuma, sio?
Tunataka mtupatie jamaa ambaye hana hangover. Ya kusema yeye ni mdosi sijui nini, mtu ambaye anaelewa shida ya watu wa Kibera. Mtu ambaye amelelewa Nairobi hii. Mtu ambaye amekaa katika slum. Anaelewa dunia ya slum inaendanga namna gani.
Power! MBC! Power!
At a separate function, ODM candidate Imran Okoth was meeting a section of members of the infamous Nairobi business group who declared their support for the ODM candidate. The meeting happened barely a week after Jubilee-nominated MP Maina Kamanda declared his support for Imran and pledged to rally Jubilee members in Kibera to support the ODM candidate.
After consultation further, we in the Nairobi business community have decided to support Imran Okoth for the Kibera by-election. We have decided to do so because of his record in handling the Kibera affairs, especially when Honorable Ken Okoth was in and out of hospital before his demise. We promise to support and urge our people residing in Kibera to support him.
Kwenye chama, lakini tunaangalia kazi ya mtu, yale majukumu ambayo atachukua. Na kweli ashajaribiwa wakati marehemu ndugu yake alikuwako, na kuna maendeleo Kibera, tunaona barabara sio kama kitambo. Kwa hivyo hapa tuna uhakika atachukua majukumu na ataweza kuendeleza watu wenzetu, ndugu zetu, makabila yote ambayo yako Kibera.
The campaigns for the November 7th by-election have gained momentum, with each party drumming up support for their candidates. Daniel Karaoke, K24 NewsCut.
Now, the sixth spiritual leader of Swami community, Mahant Swami Maharaj, is in Kenya on the last leg of his African tour to attend his 86th birthday celebrations and festivities. Jasmine Momboy has that report.
The Swami Mandir Temple in Nairobi has been abuzz with activity this week as the community celebrates the 86th birthday of Mahant Swami Maharaj. The 2-week-long event is being marked worldwide, with many devotees joining in from Europe, America and India. In Kenya, the celebrations were graced by Swami Maharaj, who led faithful in prayer. Through dance and speech, devotees extolled the glory of Swami Maharaj and reinforced his ideals of unity, fraternity and humility. The Maharaj, who blessed the gathering, asked them to worship God as the epicenter of all activities in life. The well-attended event was graced by various dignitaries, including Indian High Commissioner to Kenya Rahul Chabra, BIDCO Chief Executive Vimal Shah, industrialist Manu Chandaria, Nakumat Holdings proprietor Atul Shah, and Arpit Bansal of Novartis Kenya, among many the over 5,000 people who graced the occasion. Jasmine Omboy, K24 NewsCut.
Now, the National Assembly yesterday rejected one of President Uhuru Kenyatta's nominees to the National Land Commission over her questionable integrity. In a vetting report tabled by National Assembly Lands Committee Chairperson Raquel Nyamai, the committee declined to improve the nomination of former Isiolo woman representative Tia Galgalo after the Kenya Revenue Authority disowned her tax compliance certificate. Angela Chiror now reports.
We're in a vetting committee.
The Lands Committee reached its verdict against former Isiolo County Women Representative Tia Galgalo after the tax compliance certificate she had presented to the committee during her vetting on Friday last week was invalidated by the Kenya Revenue Authority. The committee, which spent the weekend in Mombasa compiling its report, has recommended that the lawmaker be barred from holding public office, saying the way she obtained the crucial tax clearance document is suspect. The committee, however, approved the nomination of the remaining 8 nominees to the commission. KRA Commissioner General James Mburu, who appeared before the Lands Committee on Friday last week, told the MPs that Galgalo was non-compliant on her tax remissions after failing to file returns for the years 2017 and 2018. Galgalo had submitted the same tax compliance certificate to the selection panel and the vetting committee. Mburu said the authority had launched internal investigations to unearth how the fake certificate was issued and unveil its report to the committee. Last week, Galgalo denied engaging in any fraud in obtaining the document, saying the certificate was sent to her mail after applying through the e-portal. A source in the Lands Committee disclosed that Galgalo's questionable tax returns have also aroused interest from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, and the Director of Public Prosecutions, with a view of instituting legal action. Angela Chiror, K24 NewsCut.
And on that note, it's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to K24 NewsCut. I'm Shiksha Arora, joined by our sign language interpreter, Walter Sewe. We will do this again tomorrow. Until then, you do take care of yourselves and don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have Tony Kwalanda with all your sports banter.